This episode isn't about polarity. It's not about pointing fingers or blame. It's about understanding balance and integration, where the divine feminine and sacred masculine unite, restoring dance, harmony, and alignment in each and every one of us. If it's your first time here, I'm Sarah. You're very welcome here. I'm a quantum healing guide, mindfulness guide, life coach, and teacher. I'm so glad you've stopped by. I invite you to open your ears, your heart, and your mind as we touch on one of my favorite times of the year, Halloween. It's going to be a very interesting episode. I'm going to touch on the witch wound, how it shows up, and how to heal it. The shift from a matriarchal to a patriarchal society, and where we are now in this day and age, and the pros and cons of understanding these, which I always like to delve into and understand both sides, and how we can both heal. How we can heal both the masculine and the feminine wounds inside of us and unite them harmoniously. I'm so excited for this episode. This episode is a dear tribute to all energy alchemists, witches, wizards, shamans and shamanic guides, healers and healing guides, and anyone who knowingly or unknowingly works with energy for the greatest good. This is for you. I especially wanted to touch on the witch wound in this episode, as it's something I battle with on a daily, weekly basis. Anytime I record or put content out there, a little witch wound pops up to say hello, and I know you're there and I acknowledge you, but it's something that a lot of us go through. A fear of being seen, a fear of expressing our truth, our intuition, a fear of being judged, rejected, especially women. A lot of men as well carry this heavy burden and fear, consciously or unconsciously. So, thanks to Halloween and wonderful witches, this is where this episode has stemmed from. So I have a lot of notes for this episode. I've done a lot of research, asked a lot of questions in order to creatively craft this episode the best way possible, in order for us to get an understanding without being biased, without igniting anger, because I would like to invite you to listen to this episode from a place of observation, from a place of understanding in the fact that things happened the way they happened, and that's all it is. So that's why I opened the episode with, this isn't about blame, it's not about finger pointing, it's just about understanding, observing, and building empowerment, building our awareness. With that in mind, let me consult my notes. A long time ago, in the earliest civilizations, even before recorded history, we lived in a matriarchal era where women weren't suppressed. They were free and honored, where we weren't dominated, but We lived in a culture of balance, intuition, creativity, and where life was honored as something sacred and a divine expression. If you do some research, you'll find that archaeological findings show countless figurines of earth goddesses, round with fertility and abundance, symbolizing birth, renewal, and the cyclical nature of existence. Life was organized around cooperation rather than competition, community over hierarchy, and intuitive wisdom over rigid structure. People lived very close to the land, celebrating lunar cycles, seasonal cycles, and honoring both life and death as sacred transitions. So, as you can imagine, there was a sense of freedom of expression, a liberty to express yourself, and there wasn't any consequences. But it wasn't about female rule. It was about the feminine consciousness, receptive, creative, nurturing, inclusive, and deeply connected to the mystery of existence. So, around 3000 to 2000 BCE, the collective balance began to shift, and the rise of the patriarchy began. Various factors such as population growth, warfare, scarcity, and new social structures led to societies valuing control, valuing order. So, with the rise of patriarchal structures, religions, the feminine was gradually suppressed, and the divine mother archetype was replaced by a distant masculine god. Spirituality became institutionalized. The body became sinful. Intuition was replaced by dogma, and women who once held sacred power as healers, priestesses, and midwives were silenced or demonized. Nature, once seen as a living spirit, became a resource to be used. And humanity entered the age of separation. Separation from the earth, from each other, and our divine within, our inner guidance. Because we were told that God was outside of ourselves. We weren't allowed to believe or follow our inner guidance anymore. And that's where we lost our empowerment. But don't fret, there's good news coming. If you're someone who's afraid to express your truth or your intuition, if you have a fear of rejection or judgment of your gifts, if you stay silent in order to stay safe or be accepted, or if you have a level of distrust among other women, it's highly likely that you have a witch wound. In fact, you have a witch wound. If you're someone who may be afraid to speak their mind in meetings or relationships, you'd rather just get on with it instead of bringing up your feelings. If you're hesitant to share creative or spiritual ideas, if you feel disconnected from your feminine side or your intuitive side, you feel a little bit it's a little bit difficult to make decisions. Or you have a sense of shame about being too much. You're too much for everyone, or you're too different. Well then, you might identify with having a witch wound. I know I certainly did, and some of these still apply to me, although I have worked on a lot of them, and you can too. So there are different ways where we can work on this witch wound, and I'm excited to share some of these ways, some of the ways that I've used. It's a reclamation of our voice, our body, and our inner flame, our inner desire, our passion, and empowerment and sovereignty. We're being asked to remember what was once punished is now being awakened in us and remembered as sacred. I just got goosebumps. That's a sign. So there are different ways of healing this. Remembering and being aware is a very empowering way on the healing journey. Honoring our ancestors, reclaiming our voice, speaking our truth, even when it's terrifying. Returning to our body, grounding, breathing, energy clearing. Working on our energy body is probably one of the most effective healing methods for clearing that ancestral, that witch wound. Depending on the energy center of our body, we can heal these traumas with intention, with rituals, with techniques, and release those fears and chat to those traumas, acknowledge them, and then release them. Creative alchemy. We can use these fears and these traumas and our witch wound and turn it into creativity. We can transform it into art, poetry, empowerment, and songs. We can create healing circles. And this is probably one of the most empowering things, is peer support, community. I have a women's circle. I actually have two women's circles. One's online and one's in Madrid where I live. And we're both doing The Artist's Way, but I'm doing it in two separate groups. If you haven't read The Artist's Way, I highly recommend you do. It's for releasing creative blocks, but it's more than that. Like, it's a self-healing, empowering journey, and you get to be creative and build your self-care and heal your relationship with yourself and with others. And I have a healing circle in Madrid that I'm so grateful for, and it just allows us to show up in a vulnerable way and express our shadow parts, bring different parts of us to our awareness that we wouldn't have done otherwise. And it's just really lovely. No judgment. Healing the witch wound is to undo centuries of conditioning that taught us to distrust our own power. So it's about remembering that the feminine in all beings, not just women, in men as well, we have both feminine energy and masculine energy in every being. It's remembering that the feminine is not weak, it's not dangerous, it's not shameful, but deeply wise, intuitive, and creative. And it resides in both women and men. Every time someone speaks their truth or shows up breaks through a fear, it echoes across the energetic spectrum that we all live within, since we are all connected. So if I heal something in me, it means that somebody else is going to heal something in them, because it has a rippling effect. And it goes down the ancestral line, in the past and the present, and stops that repeating pattern for the future every time somebody speaks their truth. Every time somebody trusts their intuition, chooses love over fear, the witch wound softens just a little bit more. And through this collective healing, we not only honor the witches who were lost, but we also honor the wisdom that lives through us all. It's making me emotional. So, if this has triggered you in any way, reach out and let me know how you feel. Reach out to a friend, a loved one, someone you can trust. Know that there's a way to heal this. Here comes more good news. For thousands of years, the patriarchal systems shaped the world, as you can see, through governments, through religions, through different structures, bringing structure, science, and progress, but also war, domination, and imbalance. As we already saw, the feminine voice was pushed underground, surviving through myth, surviving through myth, art, and the whispers of our heart. But nothing truly sacred can be destroyed, only forgotten for a little time. In the past century, we've witnessed a slow but sure rebirth of the feminine principle, the rise of women's rights, spiritual reawakening, earth-based practices, holistic healing, creativity, speaking up, showing up, and spreading our truth, which is a massive sign for the return of the matriarchal essence. So today's return of the matriarchal is not to go back to where we were. It's a rebirth of balance. It's about integrating the sacred feminine and divine masculine in all of us, combining structure with flow, logic and intuition, action and receptivity. The divine feminine is rising again through art, through voice, through healing, through the collective remembrance that love and connection are our truest power. More goosebumps. So we're returning to collaboration over competition, cycles over linearity, intuition over domination, feelings over suppression, and creation over control. This rebirth isn't about one gender reclaiming control. It's about restoring harmony between two polarities that sustain life. The matriarchal energy that is rising now invites us back into wholeness, where both the feminine and the masculine energy serve, love, balance, and evolve together. So, we are in the age of wisdom, the golden age, as they say, the age of empowerment and sovereignty, where leadership is rooted in empathy, sustainability, and unity. And I'm saying this in the present so that it manifests quicker, because that's the way we're going. This is the heart of the new matriarchal consciousness, A world not led by fear or hierarchy, but by compassion, cooperation, and remembrance of our sacred interconnectedness. We are the bridge between what was and what is to come. And I had this conversation. There's so many synchronicities about what I'm talking about now regarding what we spoke about in my women's circle yesterday. And we were talking about us being the bridge. Right now at the moment, we're in between like the old world, where just the patriarchal society, and now we're also in the new world. And sometimes we have to kind of go back and forth depending on family members, if you work in an old school company, or just outdated beliefs. No judgment, just observation and acknowledgement and awareness. But sometimes we have to bounce back and forth and still hold space for the people or the places or the associations that are still a little bit in that outdated age. And it's not easy because we'd like to be forward thinking. We want to be progressive and we want to be in this new era. But we have to kind of kindly guide those who don't really want to. And if they don't want to, well, that's okay as well. Because we're not judging. That's not what we do. We're the bridge between what was and what's to come. Let's have a look at some advantages and disadvantages, or pros and cons of both the matriarchal and patriarchal eras. Especially for some of you who might be thinking, why did that have to happen? And we ask this question a lot throughout different stages of history. So, firstly, the matriarchal era. The pros were that we were connected to nature and spirit. Life was seen as a sacred web of creation. People honored the moon, the seasons, and the cycles of birth and death. Community and cooperation was very apparent, and matriarchal societies tended toward equality and collaboration. Leadership was shared, and survival depended on mutual care. There was reverence for the feminine principle. Creativity, intuition, emotional intelligence were all welcomed and celebrated. The feminine body was the source of life, was sacred and not shamed. The cyclical understanding of time, where it was seen as circular, not linear, a reflection of natural cycles of life, growth, decay, and renewal. Holistic healing, spirituality, and health was all viewed energetically. Ritual herbs and ceremony were used to maintain balance between body, mind, and soul. So here are some cons. Shadow aspects, which are shadow aspects. The potential for stagnation or passivity. When flow and intuition was prioritized, some matriarchal systems may have lacked the drive for technological or structural progress. Resistance to change or conflict. Deeply peaceful and community-centered, these societies sometimes struggled to defend themselves against more aggressive civilizations. Overemphasis on emotional or mystical knowing without any balance from the logical or strategic masculine. Decisions could become overly emotional or lack discernment. So, let's have a look at some pros and cons of the patriarchal era, which started around 3000 BC and runs to present day, although it's dissolving now. The pros were structure and organization. Patriarchal systems brought law, architecture, and social structure, essential for managing growing civilizations. Technological and intellectual advancement, reason, logic, and exploration flourished. We actually grew to use our right brain much more than we did before. It was more of a left-brained society before the patriarchal society started to grow. So humanity learned to harness the elements, build and innovate. The development of individualism and identity, the rise of the ego, though often misused, allowed for self-expression, independence, and personal vision. Discipline and focus. Patriarchal order cultivated goal setting, determination, and mastery, qualities that propelled evolution forward. I'm sure it's needless to mention the cons of the patriarchal society. I imagine that we're all well aware, but let's have a look. Some cons of a patriarchal society are suppression of the feminine and nature. Emotion, intuition, and embodiment were devalued. The earth was seen as a resource to control, not as a mother to honor. Dominance and hierarchy. Power became externalized, expressed through control, conquest, and separation, rather than unity and cooperation. Disconnection from the sacred. Spirit and matter were divided. The body was seen as sinful, and spirituality became institutionalized. Exploitation and war. Competition replaced cooperation. The masculine energy, unbalanced by the feminine, manifested as domination and destruction. So there you go. I'd love to hear your comments. I'd love to hear your point of view. Let me know in the comments below, and we can have a discussion together. Where we are now, the great integration. Humanity's now at a sacred turning point, the merging of two polarities. The remembering of nurturing wisdom of the matriarchal age, while keeping the structure and discipline learned through the patriarchy. We're learning to honor our intuition and intellect, embrace emotion and logic, and combine compassion with clear boundaries. Create from love rather than from fear or control. So the matriarchal and the patriarchal eras were not mistakes. They were teachers. Each era offered a mirror, one showing us unity and flow, and the other showing us individuality and power. And now we're being invited to evolve into the age of balance, where the sacred feminine and divine masculine dance together, not in opposition, but in co-creation. So now what we're going to look at is how to integrate both divine feminine qualities and masculine qualities in a harmonious way in all of us. But we need to identify first what qualities belong to both. A divine feminine quality has intuition, creativity, nurturing, and compassionate qualities, connected to emotions, cycles, and nature. Embodied, receptive, fluid, and sensual. associated with being and feeling, and honoring if she needs to, or he, honoring if they need to take a break, if they need to have a rest, set boundaries. Then the divine masculine qualities: grounded, protective, structured and decisive, action-oriented, logical and disciplined, focused, responsible, clear in direction, and associated with doing and building. When these two energies are out of balance in our body, regardless of our gender, we can feel burnt out from overdoing, working and working and working and not honoring when we really need to step back and have a day to ourselves. It's too much masculine. Overwhelmed or indecisive. It's difficult to make a decision. It's difficult to be centered, be in the now, because there are so many thoughts and we're feeling overwhelmed. Too much feminine. If we feel disconnected from our purpose, we really don't know why we're here. What am I supposed to be doing on this earth? Well, then we're disconnected from our feminine. Repeating unhealthy relationship patterns, or, the same wounds showing up over and over and over again, it means that we might be lacking in some feminine qualities. So how can we heal the wounds of both? Healing the feminine wound means releasing shame around softness, intuition, or emotional expression. It means opening our hearts, standing strong, and being brave and unafraid to speak our truth. We reclaim pleasure. We reclaim our pleasure, sensuality, and creative flow without any shame or judgment or conditioning that is outdated. We learn to receive compliments. It's not easy for some people, and I definitely didn't find it easy, but I worked on it and worked on it, and my clients worked on it, and my students worked on it, and now they can receive love, rest, compliments, and help. Trust that your inner knowing is sacred and not silly. Those hunches, those intuitive feelings, those synchronicities, those telepathic communication that we blag off as like, oh, coincident. No, they're not silly. That is our inner power and wisdom and abilities. So healing the masculine wound is the release of the need for control or constant productivity. This is one of my biggest things. The release of the need of control, for control. Release control. Go with the flow. Or constant productivity. Like, my house doesn't always have to be spotless. It's okay. I don't need to control everything that happens in my life. I surrender. Transform aggression into healthy protection and purpose. Learn to hold space, not fix, just support. This is another big thing. When somebody comes to you with an issue or a problem, all they want to do a lot of the time is vent. I learned this the hard way, and it's not easy because you want to help, but unless we are asked for help, I still do it now that I think about it. I still offer help, but maybe the person isn't wanting help. They just want space. to vent and to express their emotions and to verbalize pain. And they don't need help, or maybe they're not looking for help at that time. They just want support, not solutions. And then healing the masculine wound allows vulnerability without seeing it as a weakness. Being vulnerable is actually a strength. It's a very empowering strength. So we're essentially teaching the inner masculine to protect, not suppress, the inner feminine. How can we balance and reunite the two? So, for example, you can spend one day planning, executing, doing, and then the next day reflecting and feeling. You can spend the next day productive, cleaning, organizing, and then the following day, creativity, flow, art. Inner dialogue is one of the most important things here. Because sometimes, remember, there's no judgment here. It's just observation and awareness and self-love. Because we're all in this together and we're all learning. And it's all the human experience. So there's no blame, there's no finger pointing. But our inner dialogue is one of the most important things that we can pay attention to. Are we being too hard on ourselves? Lack of feminine. Are we being too demanding of ourselves? Too much masculine. Are we holding space for ourselves? What can we do to help ourselves work together? When we do all of this work, it seems like a lot of work, but it's not. It can be in a simple meditation every day, journaling, just paying attention to ourselves, to be aware of what we're doing in our lives. And maybe we might need to write it all down. I'll send you a link in the show notes with a whole document for you to go through where you can see both masculine energy and feminine energy and both qualities, and when they're out of harmony or when they're unbalanced, and what you can do to balance these. Of course, get in touch with me if you'd like some personal guidance, if you're interested in something going deeper. You're more than welcome to reach out to me. But I'm going to leave a free downloadable document for you to work on yourself. So what does the integration of our sacred masculine and our divine feminine look like? Well, when our inner masculine and feminine unite, they become an inner partnership. A sacred marriage and birth of an authentic creation, peace, and self-trust, where you no longer need external validation or control, because both your inner protector and your inner nurturer are awake and in harmony. I'm so grateful for you, overly grateful for your open heart, your open ears and mind. And thank you for stopping by. Please like and share and subscribe. It would really help this message expand further and reach other people who might be interested in learning from this video and healing and growing. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you, and I'm sending you all so much love. Remember to let me know how you got on, if you've started this sacred union within yourself. I'd love to hear. Thank you so much. Take care.